In one intense week, a dozen federal judges handed down major setbacks to Donald Trump. These weren't just decisions from progressive figures chosen by Barack Obama or Joe Biden. Several came from those picked by Republican leaders, and that includes a pair selected by Trump back in his initial time in office. They've determined that his decisions from the White House go against the Constitution, break laws, and sometimes pose real risks to the core of our democratic system. Picture this. A judge put in place by Ronald Reagan with 4 decades of experience stares straight ahead and states that nothing this clearly against the rules has crossed his path before. That's a major shift happening right now. Make sure to tap that subscribe option so you catch all my upcoming pieces. What sparked this rare pushback from the courts? A review by Bloomberg showed that by May, judges had put out over 200 decisions halting moves from the current team in 128 different legal battles. Yes, you heard that right. 200 stops against a leader in power. And this fact tears apart the story coming from the administration. Close to a quarter of those judges who sided against them got their spots from Republican presidents. This goes beyond party lines. It's the court system stepping up to protect the nation's founding document. Trust me, seeing picks from Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and Trump turning against these steps means the base for those orders has fallen apart completely. It's tough to wrap your head around how the courts are coming together to challenge a leader's plans like this, something we haven't seen in recent U.S. times. Let me lay out the bigger view of events. Strain between the president's office and the judges started right after January 20th, driven by a rush of orders that experts in law spotted as troubling from the start. Things ramped up big time toward the end of 2025 when a Washington Post report uncovered a shocking detail. The team in charge had ignored court decisions in about a third of the situations where rulings went against them. Experts in the field call this level of disregard something no other White House has done before. This recent surge in court resistance hit from several angles. To start, Judge John Coffenor out in Seattle stopped the order on birthright citizenship, describing it right there in court as obviously against the Constitution. Next, Judge Ahmed Mehta in the capital city found that the group broke the Fifth Amendment by cutting energy funds to hit back at states that didn't support Trump in the 2024 vote. Then came a series of other decisions, putting holds on items like limits on refugees, stops to government money, and moves against legal groups helping people the president opposes. If this is clicking for you, go ahead and press that like icon. This is where the matter turns even more critical. As judges nationwide looked over the details in these disputes, they saw right away that key boundaries in the Constitution had been crossed. Let's keep it real. Federal judges don't hand out quick stops or early blocks just because they differ on ideas or lean one way politically. They step in when they see core rules of our system facing a direct challenge. Reports from various places describe what unfolded after that. On January 23, 2025, only 3 days into the new term, Judge John Coffenor listened to both sides in a federal room in Seattle. The session wrapped up in just 25 minutes. People there said the judge, chosen by Reagan, looked clearly annoyed by what the government side presented. Once the lawyer from the Justice Department wrapped up, Coffenor jumped right in. "I've held this position for more than 40 years, he stated, with a sharp tone that stood out. "I don't recall any other matter where the issue is this straightforward." He took a moment, allowing his statement to sink in around the room. "This order goes straight against the Constitution." The room went quiet. Journalists edged closer. The Attorney General from Washington State, Nick Brown, who brought the case, shared with reporters later that such strong words from someone Reagan selected highlighted how grave the moment was for the nation. But Coffenor kept going. In a follow-up session on February 6th, he pushed even harder, with comments that rippled through those who study law. It's growing clearer that for our current leader, following the law stands in the way of what he wants to achieve, Coffenor said from his seat. "Here in this space, and while I'm overseeing it, the law guides us like a strong light I plan to stick to." At that point, it became obvious this goes beyond a typical issue in politics. This shows the courts marking a firm boundary against too much power from the top. When someone Reagan placed on duty since 1981 openly says a fellow Republican leader sees the Constitution as something to dodge, we're in a whole new area that's never happened before. Share your take in the comments if you expected this. I checked them all. Now the situation heats up dramatically. Coffenor's decision stood out, but it wasn't alone. In under 2 days, another judge named Deborah Borman in Maryland put out her own early block on the same citizenship rule. The same thing played out elsewhere. Judge Amir Ali required the release of held-back aid to other countries. Judge Amy Berman Jackson stopped efforts to weaken key government offices. One after another, judges from both sides of the aisle decided the moves couldn't hold up under the law. The real eye-opener hit when the figures added up. Bloomberg's detailed look showed the team losing ground in 128 lawsuits by May 2025. Courts let challenged ideas move forward in only 43 instances. Those numbers hit hard. The idea of Trump racking up legal wins, which his backers often highlight, turns out to be pure fiction. This development rattled those at the top of the Republican side. When judges you helped place are deciding against you this often, the talk of a biased chase falls flat. You can't point fingers at progressive judges when ones from Reagan, Bush, and your own early picks all agree. The issues lie in the plans themselves. This isn't new for a leader to hit big court walls. Recall Richard Nixon in the Watergate era, when the highest court told him without dissent to hand over recordings from his office. Or Harry Truman, when judges overturned his takeover of factories amid the Korean conflict. Barack Obama dealt with losses on border rules too. If you haven't joined yet, hit subscribe now. This kind of insight isn't out there elsewhere. But Trump's case stands apart. The amount and speed of these negative outcomes have no match. Data from Just Securities shows over 358 challenges filed against his team's steps in 2025 by itself. That's a higher count in 1 year than most leaders see over 4 or 8 years. The defeats keep piling on. Stephen Vladich, a professor at Georgetown's law program, pointed out that Trump's justice team has gone to the top court for help after lower losses 13 times in a short span. By contrast, the groups under Bush and Obama together did that just 8 times across 16 years. Don't overlook his earlier term either. The Institute for Policy Integrity found that his group lost about 93% of challenges to their rules in court, often for not following proper steps. The trend shows up clearly. When judges dig into Trump's orders based on facts, they regularly see them as falling short on legal grounds. So, what seems to have caused this unmatched string of court denials? Experts who examined the disputed orders say they broke basic rules in the Constitution in several areas. The citizenship change tried to flip long-settled law from 1868 and a key court call in 1898 on United States versus Wong Kim Ark. The holds on funds aimed to shift money set by Congress without permission. The strikes at legal firms went against free speech in the First Amendment and the right to a lawyer in the Sixth. And ending energy support picked on groups in states that opposed Trump, breaking equal treatment under the Fifth Amendment. This part stands out most. In the energy matter, the side defending actually agreed in papers filed with the court that a main factor for choosing which supports to cut was if the area was in a state they labeled as leaning blue. Judge Ma's decision cut straight through. No carve-out exists for equal rights when it comes to government money, he noted. This wasn't about debating energy choices. It was straight-up payback in politics, wrapped as a leadership move. Stick around. The strongest details are up next. What should worry us all is this. It reaches past one group or batch of ideas. If a leader can brush off court decisions a third of the time without fallout, if steps from the top can target areas based on votes, if basic safeguards get ignored when they clash with aims, then the whole setup of limits and balances that kept our democracy going for 250 years faces real danger. This leaves Republican members of Congress in a tight spot. They get heat from supporters who stick firmly with Trump and see any pushback as disloyalty. So they back the leader no matter the court views, label judges as driven by agendas, and paint the court setup as a hidden plot against right-leaning rule. Yet they also face the truth that judges their party chose, checked by their own and approved by them, call these moves against the rules. They need to tell voters why laws should flex when it suits their side. That's hard to back up with straight thinking. This gets complicated because no solid argument holds. Either the judges have it right and the orders break the Constitution, or hundreds of them, from both parties over years, are all in on a plot against one person. That second idea ignores common sense and how a free court system works. People studying law and government call this a slow-building clash over the Constitution. Erwin Chemerinsky, who leads Berkeley's law school and ranks high in understanding our founding rules, shared with media that the top court must decide something basic. Will it stop a leader who, as his own top aide put it, thinks he has free reign? Give that like a solid tap. It truly boosts this piece to more viewers. Voices on the conservative side, who often back wide power for the president, have shown concern too. A free court system isn't a flaw in how America runs. It's built in by those who started it to block too much control from one branch. When judges from all views join to oppose a team's steps, it doesn't show slant. It points to the steps lacking a strong legal stand. Let's unpack the possible outcomes. Right away, the effect on politics matters a lot. With the top court's decision in Trump versus a state limiting broad blocks from lower courts, the team gains an edge in strategy. Those challenging must now fight case by case across areas, slowing down stops to wrong moves. But the core legal weaknesses stay. The orders keep getting called out as invalid. The group continues to drop cases on their substance. Next, it harms trust in the courts. Judges at the federal level deal with dangers like never before. NBC reports say 12 judges shared with reporters that they feel the highest court isn't stepping up enough to shield them from hits. One who decided against the team got real threats to life and now worries for loved ones at every sound outside. The marshals look into dangers aimed at many active judges, often after rulings against Trump. Looking forward, what this means for 2026 and later runs deep. Any Republican seeking a spot will get asked if they stand by a leader whose ideas get labeled against the rules at record levels. Ads showing judges, even those from their side, detailing why they halted orders are in the works. This splits views in ways that cross usual party lines, since respecting the law has drawn support from all sides before. Leave your ideas in the comments. I'm eager to read what you think. But past the short-term shifts in politics, this touches on core ideas in the Constitution. The leader's job comes with limits set by our founding rules. Power from that office has boundaries. When courts say actions go too far, the right move in a working system is to follow, not hit back at the judges or call for their removal or say the whole court branch plots a takeover. This setup sparks real worry among those in law. Stories show groups like the American Bar Association, judge organizations, and heads of law programs all voice fears about where ties between the top office and courts head. Some say the courts just do their role. Others fear ongoing strikes at court trust, plus dangers to single judges, chip away at the base of our rule-based system in lasting ways. At the same time, the main backers of the administration stay fully sure that each bad ruling proves court favoritism, not flaws in the law. Online spaces overflow with strikes at any judge opposing the leader. They get tagged as pushers of causes, party players, or inside agents. The detail that many came from Republican picks gets brushed off or skipped. Matters grew worse when Trump reacted to the building court defeats with his usual strong anger. He demanded removal for judges who went against him. He questioned their skills, reasons, and love for the country. From the White House, aide Stephen Miller said the team fell victim to a court-led overthrow. Hang in there. What follows will shift your whole outlook. This response makes it worse because it basically admits no real legal ground stands. Rather than fix the Constitution issues courts pointed out, the approach turns to full-on attacks in politics. When your plan to defend is to tear down anyone who differs instead of showing why the law backs you, the debate is already over. The head of the top court, John Roberts, put out an unusual note after Trump suggested removing a judge. For over 200 years, Roberts stated, it's clear that removal isn't the way to handle disagreement on a court call. When the nation's top judge must tell a current leader about basic rules, it raises flags for all, no matter your side. This stretches way past 12 judges or 128 bad outcomes. It's about if our setup with split powers and free courts to curb oversteps will last for those coming after us. Without fallout for regularly breaking court calls, for striking at judges who oppose, for putting out orders that your own picks see as wrong, the idea of government with limits loses meaning. The top office turns into one without real rules to follow. That's not the vision from our starters. That's not what people across time protected. If this surprises you, tap like now. Here's how it looks. Over 200 court decisions have halted this team's steps. Judges from both party leaders, including several Trump choices, have called ideas against the rules unlawful and at times risky. The team faces claims of ignoring courts in a third of matters, and the reply from leadership has been to go after the judges, not solve the issues. This moves past party fights or usual court tussles. It's about if government under the Constitution, as we've known it for 250 years, keeps working. When a judge from Reagan's time, with 40 years behind him, says nothing this obviously wrong has shown up before. When many judges nationwide agree on various ideas, when even right-leaning law experts show worry, we're in fresh ground. Without results, it opens a bad path. Leaders ahead from any group might see court decisions as choices, constitution bounds as tips, and court checks as walls to push past with force, not by following rules. Watch this closely. The top court plans to take up cases on several team ideas soon, like challenges to fees on imports and possible curbs on power to dismiss officials. Legal sides threaten to probe judges over fixing the real points. And judges everywhere wait to see if their efforts, safety, and role get backed by the systems meant to guard court freedom. One more thing before we move on. Hit subscribe to stay in the loop on this. Right now, here's the picture. A dozen federal judges decided against Trump in 1 week. Over 200 court stops have hit team actions. Judges from Republican and Democratic picks have spotted breaks in the Constitution. Courts face life dangers for their work, and the ignoring keeps on. This won't just pass as news. It's a real-time clash over the Constitution. The next steps might set if free courts, the final guard against too much top power, hold real strength to limit a leader who feels boundless. The facts are clear. Decisions are out. Now we see if holding accountable still matters here. The risks couldn't be greater, the proof couldn't be stronger, and the clash over rules couldn't be more pressing. Take a breath and press, like if this breakdown helps you.